The Matthew Bible, also known as Matthew's Version, was first published in 1537 by John Rogers, under the pseudonym Thomas Matthew. It combined the New Testament of William Tyndale, and as much of the Old Testament as he had been able to translate before being captured and put to death. The translations of Miles Coverdale from German and Latin sources completed the Old Testament and the Apocrypha, except the apocryphal Prayer of Manasses. It is thus a vital link in the main sequence of English Bible translations. Translation. Matthew's Bible was the combined work of three individuals, working from numerous sources in at least 5 different languages. The entire New Testament, the Pentateuch, Jonah, and in David Daniel's view, the books of Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, and 1st and 2nd Chronicles, were the work of William Tyndale. Tyndale worked directly from the Hebrew and Greek, occasionally consulting the Vulgate under Erasmus's Latin version, and he used Luther's Bible for the prefaces, marginal notes, and the biblical text. The use of the pseudonym Thomas Matthew resulted possibly from the need to conceal from Henry VIII the participation of Tyndale in the translation. The remaining books of the Old Testament and the Apocrypha were the work of Miles Coverdale. Coverdale translated primarily from German and Latin sources. Historians often tend to treat Coverdale and Tyndale like competitors in a race to complete the monumental and arduous task of translating the biblical text. One is often credited to the exclusion of the other. In reality, they knew each other and occasionally worked together. Fox states that they were in Hamburg translating the Pentateuch together as early as 1529. The Prayer of Manasses was the work of John Rogers. Rogers translated from a French Bible printed 2 years earlier. Rogers compiled the completed work and added the preface, some marginal notes, a calendar, and an almanac. Of the 3 translators, 2 were burned at the stake. Tyndale was burned on 6 October 1536 in Vilvoorde, Belgium. John Rogers was tested by fire on 4 February 1555 at Smithfield, England, the first to meet this fate under Mary I of England. Miles Coverdale was employed by Cromwell to work on the Great Bible of 1539, the first officially authorized English translation of the Bible. Time and extensive scholastic scrutiny have judged Tyndale the most gifted of the 3 translators. Dr. Westcott states that the history of our English Bible begins with the work of Tyndale and not with that of Wycliffe. The quality of his translations has also stood the test of time, coming relatively intact even into modern versions of the Bible. A.S. Herbert, Bible Cataloger, says of the Matthew Bible, this version, which welds together the best work of Tyndale and Coverdale, is generally considered to be the real primary version of our English Bible, upon which later editions were based, including the Geneva Bible and King James Version. Professor David Daniel recounts that New Testament scholars John Nielsen and Royal Scusin observed that previous estimates of Tyndale's contribution to the KJV have run from a high of up to 90% to a low of 18%. By a statistically accurate and appropriate method of sampling, based on 18 portions of the Bible, they concluded that for the New Testament Tyndale's contribution is about 83% of the text, and in the Old Testament 76%. Thus the Matthew Bible, though largely unrecognized, significantly shaped and influenced English Bible versions in the centuries that followed its first appearance. Printing. John Strype wrote in 1694 that the 1537 Matthew Bible was printed by Richard Grafton in Hamburg. Later editions were printed in London. The last of 4 appeared in 1551. 2 editions of the Matthew Bible were published in 1549. One was a reprint of the 1537 first edition, and was printed by Thomas Reynold and William Hill. The other was printed by John Day and William Sears, and made extensive changes to the notes of the original Matthew Bible, included copious commentaries on the Book of Revelation based on the book Image of Two Churches by contemporary John Bale. The Van Meten's son, Emmanuel, stated in an affidavit dated the 28th of May 1609 that his father was a furtherer of Reformed religion, and he had caused the first Bible at his cost to be Englished by Mr. Miles Coverdale in Antwerp. The W.H. his father, with Mr. Edward Whitchurch, printed both in Paris and London. Coverdale was employed as a translator by Jacobus van Meteren. Rogers began assisting the work around 1535, and married J. the Van Meten's niece Adriana in the same year that the Matthew Bible was first published. Rogers was living in London again at the time of the second printing of the Matthew Bible in 1549.